The world changed forever on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Frank Wilson stared at the data scrolling across his monitor, his coffee growing cold beside him at the NASA Deep Space Communications Facility. Something had happened to Voyager 3, humanity's most ambitious interstellar probe. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the analysis again. The signal from Voyager 3 had disappeared completely. Not degraded or weakened, simply gone, as if someone had flipped a switch. $12 billion of advanced technology had just vanished from their sensors. Frank picked up the phone with a shaking hand and dialed his supervisor. 40 years later, Defense Secretary Alan Wright stood before the United Nations Security Council. The large chamber was silent as representatives from every major nation leaned forward in their seats. What had begun as a classified briefing was now unavoidable public knowledge. "Ladies and gentlemen," Wright began, his voice steady despite the gravity of his message. "The disappearance of the Voyager 3 probe wasn't an accident." He nodded to his assistant, who displayed a series of grainy but unmistakable images on the chamber's main screen. Gasps filled the room. The photograph showed a massive cylindrical vessel positioned near Jupiter's orbit. Its design was clearly not human. Smooth, with odd protrusions and no visible propulsion system. Smaller craft surrounded it, one appearing to intercept the trajectory where Voyager 3 would have been. "These images were captured by our Deep Space Telescope network," Wright continued. "They confirm what some have suspected for years. We are not alone in this universe, and our visitors don't appear to be friendly." The Russian representative stood up. "When were these images taken?" 3 weeks ago. We've been analyzing them continuously since then." Dr. Lisa Kendrick stepped forward. Her title as head of the newly formed Extraterrestrial Intelligence Assessment Division had seemed almost comical when it was created 5 years earlier. Nobody was laughing now. "We've detected communications between these craft," she explained, displaying frequency analyses on the screen. "The encryption is unlike anything we've seen before, but the patterns suggest a coordinated reconnaissance operation. They're studying us." The Security Council erupted in overlapping questions and demands. Secretary Wright raised his hands for silence. "There's more," he said grimly. 2 days ago, our lunar observatory captured this." The screen changed to show Earth from a distance. Around it, barely visible even with enhancement, were dozens of small objects in orbit. These objects appeared simultaneously in orbit around our planet. They're approximately 20 meters in length and are systematically photographing every square mile of Earth's surface. The Chinese representative's voice cut through the shocked silence. "Have they attempted contact?" "No," Wright replied. "They've made no attempt to communicate with us or interfere with our satellites. They appear solely focused on observation." In the following days, observatories worldwide tracked the alien fleet as it methodically documented Earth. News agencies broadcast continuous coverage as humanity collectively held its breath. Religious leaders offered prayers, scientists worked around the clock analyzing the limited data, and military forces around the world went to their highest alert status. After exactly 1 week, the objects disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared. An emergency session of world leaders convened the following day. General Paul Martinez, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stood before the assembled representatives. Based on their behavior pattern and technological capabilities, he said soberly, "We believe this was a reconnaissance mission. They're scouting us." He paused, letting his words sink in. "And they'll be back." The room fell silent as humanity faced its greatest challenge, preparing for a return visit from beings with technology far beyond their own, whose intentions remained completely unknown. Earth changed dramatically in the 10 years after the aliens' first visit. Nations that once pointed deadly weapons at each other now worked together under the preparation protocol. People from countries that had been enemies for generations found themselves side by side in laboratories, military bases, and construction projects. The International Space Force grew from just an idea to reality. With bases on the Moon and Mars, every country contributed what they could: money, scientists, soldiers, or resources. The goal was simple but enormous: make sure humanity could defend itself when the aliens returned. In her laboratory deep under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Lisa Kendrick watched her team test their newest weapon. The large metal device hummed quietly as it generated an invisible field that could disrupt the movement of objects around it. "We think the alien ships bend space to move," she explained to Admiral John Garcia, who had flown in from the Lunar Command to see the test. "Their ships don't use engines like ours. They fold space itself." Garcia nodded, his face serious. "And this can stop them. If they come back with bad intentions, this should make it hard for them to move their ships," Dr. Kendrick said, pointing to the weapon. "It creates ripples in gravity, like dropping stones in a pond. Their space-folding technology should get scrambled." The demonstration began. A small drone tried to fly through the test area, but suddenly veered off course, tumbling through the air before crashing to the floor. Garcia smiled for the first time that day. "Mass-produce them. I want one on every defense platform." Across the globe, similar work continued day and night. In Singapore, a massive quantum computing facility worked to decode the alien language from the messages intercepted during first contact. In orbit around Earth, huge shipyards built new vessels that combined human technology with ideas learned from studying pieces of alien equipment found floating in space after their departure. The changes weren't just military. Schools now taught children what to do if aliens came back. Beside their lessons in math and reading, they practiced emergency drills. Every child over 7 knew the location of the nearest shelter and what to do if the alarm sounded. Food reserves grew in secure underground facilities. Water purification systems were redesigned to work even if power grids failed. Hospitals trained doctors to handle possible alien diseases. Nothing was left to chance. Every night, powerful new telescopes scanned the stars for any sign of returning visitors. Satellites with special sensors formed a net around the solar system, designed to give early warning of approaching ships. On the anniversary of first contact, President Hannah Baker addressed the world from the newly completed Global Defense Headquarters in Geneva. 10 years ago, we learned we are not alone," she said, her voice steady. "We faced a choice: give in to fear or rise to the challenge. We chose to rise. Today, humanity stands more united and prepared than at any time in our history." She gestured to the screens behind her, showing images of the defense stations orbiting Earth, the moon base, and the fleets of new spacecraft ready to defend humanity. "We do not know if our visitors will return as friends or enemies," she continued, "but we will be ready either way. We hope for peace, but we will not be caught unprepared again." As the president spoke, deep space sensors at the edge of the solar system detected the first faint signals. Something large was moving toward Earth, still months away but definitely coming. In the monitoring station, where the signals first appeared, Captain Bradley Johnson stared at the screen for a long moment before picking up the red phone. "Sir," he said when the call connected, "they're coming back." Catherine Daniels had worked at Lunar Base Armstrong for 3 years. Her job as communications specialist usually meant boring shifts monitoring signals from Earth and the various human outposts across the solar system. Today was different. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange," she called to her supervisor. "It's on all frequencies at once." Commander Ryan Ellis rushed to her station. "Show me." Catherine pointed to her display where signal patterns flashed across the screen. "It started 30 seconds ago. The same message is coming in on every frequency we monitor. That's impossible unless someone wants to make absolutely sure we get their message." Commander Ellis finished. He pressed the emergency alert button on the console. Put it through the translator. The computer processed the signal for several minutes while base personnel gathered around. Finally, words appeared on the main screen. "Prepare for assessment. Compliance ensures survival." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The aliens had returned. Within hours, the translation team on Earth confirmed the message was authentic. Deep space tracking stations reported a massive fleet of alien ships entering the solar system. far larger than the scouting force from 10 years earlier. In the White House Situation Room, President Olivia Summers sat at the head of the table surrounded by her top advisors. Screens showing the approaching fleet covered the walls. "How long do we have?" she asked, her voice calm despite the tension in the room. "At their current speed, 5 days until they reach Earth orbit," replied Admiral Garcia. His uniform looked freshly pressed, even though he hadn't slept in 36 hours. Secretary Alan Wright slid a tablet across the table. "This is the assessment from Dr. Kendrick's team. They believe assessment means the aliens will evaluate if we're worth keeping alive." President Summers studied the report. "And compliance." "Surrender," Wright said simply. "They expect us to give up without even explaining what they want from us." The president stood and walked to the largest screen, studying the formation of the alien armada. "That's not humanity's way," she said firmly. "We've spent 10 years preparing for this moment. The preparation protocol has given us options, Madam President," Admiral Garcia noted. "We can demonstrate our capability without starting a fight. Show them we're not easy prey." "And if they attack first?" Secretary Wright asked. The president turned to face the room. "Then they'll learn what humans do when backed into a corner." Her expression hardened. "Activate all defense systems, bring the fleet to ready status, and prepare to broadcast our response." Across Earth, the Moon, and Mars, military personnel moved to battle stations. Massive energy shields designed to protect major cities powered up. In orbit, the combined Earth fleet moved into defensive formation, weapons charged, but not yet targeting the approaching aliens. In Geneva, a team of diplomats and linguists worked frantically to craft humanity's official response. The message needed to be clear. Earth wanted peace but was prepared for war. In her laboratory, Dr. Kendrick watched as her gravity disruption weapons were loaded onto the last transport ships heading to the orbital defense platforms. She had spent a decade developing technology that might save her species. Now they would find out if it worked. "All systems ready for broadcast," announced the communications officer at Global Command. President Summers took a deep breath and nodded to the camera. "Send our message." The signal beamed out from Earth's combined broadcast array, directed straight at the approaching armada. Humanity had spent 10 years preparing its answer to the alien threat. Now the time had come to deliver it. The message from Earth traveled through space, aimed directly at the approaching alien armada. It began with mathematical formulas, universal constants that any advanced civilization would recognize, followed by translations in the alien language that Earth scientists had spent years trying to decode. Then came versions in every human language, starting with English. "To approaching vessels, we acknowledge your presence. We seek peaceful coexistence between our civilizations. However, understand this clearly. Earth is our home. We have prepared for your return. We possess defensive and offensive capabilities designed specifically to counter your technology. Any hostile action will be met with immediate and overwhelming response." The message continued with details that would normally be military secrets: the exact number of orbital defense platforms, the positions of Earth's fleet, the capabilities of the planetary shield system, and the destructive power of humanity's new weapons. It was a deliberate show of strength, removing any doubt about Earth's readiness. "We prefer diplomacy," the message concluded, "but we stand ready for war. The choice is yours. We await your response." In mission control centers across the globe, military and civilian leaders watched their displays anxiously. Would the aliens understand? Would they care? Captain Eric Donovan stood on the bridge of the Lunar Defense Station, eyes fixed on the tactical display. The massive alien fleet had been approaching steadily. But now something changed. "They're slowing down," he reported, his voice tense. "All vessels reducing speed." Admiral Garcia's face appeared on the main screen. "Any signs of weapon activation?" "Negative, sir. Their systems remain dormant. They appear to be considering our message." Hours passed in tense silence. Soldiers and civilians alike watched the skies. Children huddled in shelters with their families. In places of worship around the world, people prayed for peace while preparing for war. In the Presidential Command Center, Olivia Summers received updates from every defense sector. The aliens had halted their approach completely, holding position just beyond Mars' orbit. "They're analyzing our capabilities," Dr. Kendrick suggested, "trying to determine if we're bluffing." Secretary Wright nodded. 10 years ago, we were primitive by their standards. They're surprised by how much we've advanced, and trying to decide if it's worth the fight," added Admiral Garcia through the video link. President Summers studied the latest sensor readings. "We need to make sure they understand we're serious. General Phillips, is Operation Lighthouse ready?" The general nodded. "Yes, Madam President. All components are in position. We can execute on your command." "And the target?" "An uninhabited asteroid in the belt. No chance of misinterpretation as an attack on their fleet." The president considered this. Earth's message had been sent. The aliens had paused. Now they needed to see proof that humanity's warnings weren't empty threats. "If they resume course toward Earth without responding, we execute Lighthouse," she decided. "They need to understand we're not the same species they found 10 years ago." On displays across the solar system, the alien fleet remained motionless, waiting, assessing. In a small farm in Iowa, a young boy looked up at the night sky. "Can they see us, Dad?" he asked. His father nodded. "Yes, but they can see our ships too. And our shields. We're not afraid anymore." The boy considered this. "Will there be a war?" His father put his arm around the boy's shoulders. "I don't know. But if they're smart, they'll choose peace." Above them, invisible to the naked eye, but clearly visible on military sensors, the alien fleet suddenly began to move again, continuing its approach toward Earth. In the command center, President Summers received the news with grim determination. "They've made their choice," she said. "Execute Operation Lighthouse." As President Summers gave the order, military commanders around the world sprang into action. Operation Lighthouse was not a weapon of last resort, but a carefully planned demonstration of Earth's new capabilities. "All stations confirm readiness," announced General Phillips from the Global Military Command. "Shield generators at full power. Fleet in defensive formation. Gravitational weapon primed and targeted." The president nodded. "Proceed." The first part of the demonstration began with Earth's orbital defense grid. Thousands of satellites linked together, generating a massive energy shield that became visible as a faint blue glow surrounding the planet. From space, Earth now appeared to be wrapped in a thin, shimmering bubble. "Shield integrity at 100%, reported the defense system operator. "All sectors online." Next, Earth's combined fleet moved into a defensive pattern. Over 500 spacecraft took positions around the planet and its moon, weapons charged but not targeting the alien vessels. These ships represented the united effort of all nations, a fighting force unimaginable 10 years earlier. The centerpiece of the demonstration was about to begin. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, a special weapon had been positioned near a medium-sized asteroid. The uninhabited rock was approximately 1 kilometer across, large enough to make a point, but small enough to avoid any significant impact on the solar system. Dr. Kendrick watched from her command station as the gravitational weapon powered up. This was her life's work, a device that could manipulate the very fabric of space. "Target locked," reported the weapons officer. "Ready on your mark." "Execute," Dr. Kendrick ordered. In space, invisible forces began to twist around the asteroid. The rock seemed to shudder, then crack. Within seconds, the entire kilometer-wide asteroid collapsed inward, crushed by gravitational forces thousands of times stronger than normal. A brief flash of light followed as the compressed material heated to extreme temperatures. When it faded, nothing remained but a cloud of dust. "Target neutralized," the weapons officer confirmed. Energy signature clearly visible to alien sensors. Admiral Garcia's voice came through the communication system. A warning shot across the bow, he explained to those watching, showing capability without direct aggression. The alien fleet's reaction was immediate. Their forward progress stopped completely. After a few minutes, 3 smaller vessels detached from the main fleet and moved closer to Earth, staying well away from the shield perimeter. "They're taking us seriously now," Secretary Wright observed. The demonstration had achieved its purpose, proving that humanity was not defenseless. The question remained, would it be enough to prevent conflict? For nearly an hour, the alien scout ships maintained their position, scanning Earth's defenses. Then a new message arrived, transmitted on the same frequencies Earth had used earlier. "Your species shows unexpected advancement. Assessment parameters require recalibration." The message was brief, but its implications were enormous. The aliens had not expected resistance at this level. "They're scanning everything," Dr. Kendrick noted, studying the incoming data. "Our shields, our fleet, our weapons. They're trying to determine if we're bluffing." "We're not," replied President Summers firmly. "And they need to understand that clearly." The standoff continued for several more hours. Finally, the 3 alien scout ships returned to their main fleet. After a brief period, another message arrived. "We request direct communication. Neutral location. Representatives will be sent." In the command center, a cautious sense of hope began to replace the tension. The aliens wanted to talk. "Prepare the orbital meeting platform," the president ordered, "and select our negotiation team. Tell the aliens we accept their request for communication." For the first time since the crisis began, people across Earth allowed themselves to believe that the planet might avoid war. For the first time in human history, people from Earth prepared to meet beings from another world. The meeting would happen on an orbital platform that had been built specifically for this purpose. The large circular station floated in space between Earth and the Moon, marked with the flags of all nations. Ambassador Nathan Ward led the human team. He had been a diplomat for 30 years, but nothing in his career had prepared him for this mission. His team included Dr. Lisa Kendrick, military advisor General Ben Howard, and linguist Dr. Maria Reyes. "Remember," Ward told his team as they boarded the shuttle, "we represent all of humanity today. Our goal is peace, but we will not show weakness." The shuttle docked with the station 3 hours later. The human team entered the large circular meeting room first. The walls were transparent, showing the stars all around them and Earth hanging like a blue jewel in the distance. "They're approaching," announced the station commander over the intercom. "One vessel, as agreed." Through the windows, they watched as an alien shuttle, smooth and silver with no visible engines, glided toward the station. It connected to the opposite docking port with a soft thud. The room fell silent as the inner door slid open. 3 figures entered, each wearing what appeared to be environmental suits that completely covered their bodies. The suits were metallic gray with dark visors hiding their faces. "Welcome to our meeting place," Ambassador Ward said, stepping forward. "We come in peace and hope for understanding between our peoples." The tallest alien moved forward. A small device on its chest glowed, and a mechanical voice spoke in perfect English. "We are representatives of the Khazari Collective. This meeting is unexpected. Your species was designated for evaluation and potential incorporation." "Incorporation?" Ward asked carefully. "Addition to our collective," the alien replied. "Your species showed promise but insufficient advancement. Previous observations indicated minimal resistance capability." Dr. Kendrick stepped forward. "Your observations were incomplete. Humanity responds to threats by preparing to meet them. We developed in 10 years what might have taken 50 without your motivation." The aliens conferred among themselves in sounds that the translation devices couldn't process. Finally, the leader turned back to the humans. "This reaction is unusual. Most species accept guidance or surrender when confronted with superior technology. Humans are different," Ambassador Ward explained. "We value our independence and will fight to defend it, even against overwhelming odds. The negotiations continued for 3 days. The aliens revealed more about themselves and their purpose. The Khazari Collective traveled throughout the galaxy, finding developing civilizations. They classified each species they encountered and decided their fate. We have encountered 2,817 species, their representative explained during the second day. Only 12 have demonstrated sufficient readiness to negotiate terms rather than accept governance. Make that 13. Ambassador Ward responded firmly. Humanity will join no collective without equal standing and preserve sovereignty. On the third day, the aliens presented their terms. They would recognize Earth as an independent world if humans agreed to limit their expansion to their own solar system for the next 100 years. After that period, controlled expansion would be permitted. The human team asked for a recess to discuss the proposal privately. They're afraid of us, General Howard observed once they were alone. Not of what we are now, but of what we might become. Dr. Kendrick nodded. They saw how quickly we advanced when threatened. They're trying to slow us down. But they're willing to leave us alone. Ambassador Ward noted. That's a significant concession. After hours of discussion, the human team returned with their counteroffer. Earth would accept the solar system limitation for 50 years, not 100. Additionally, they wanted technology exchanges and recognition as equals in any future interactions. The aliens considered this proposal carefully before responding. Your terms are acceptable, the lead alien finally stated. The Khazari Collective recognizes Earth as a sovereign entity. A formal agreement will be prepared. For the first time since the aliens had arrived, Ambassador Ward allowed himself to smile. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. The day humanity signed its first agreement with an alien civilization was sunny and clear in Geneva. 1 year had passed since the tense confrontation that nearly led to war. Now, representatives from every country gathered to witness the formal signing of the Mutual Recognition Accord. The agreement established clear boundaries between Earth and the Khazari Collective. It created rules for technology exchange, and most importantly, recognized Earth's right to exist as an independent world. Humans would be limited to their own solar system for 50 years, but during that time, they would receive visits from Khazari teachers who would share selected technologies. President Olivia Summers stood on the stage in front of the historic United Nations building. Behind her, the strange environmental suits of the 3 Khazari representatives gleamed in the sunlight. Today marks not just humanity's introduction to the galactic community, the president said to the billions watching around the world, but our entrance as equals. We demonstrated that determination and unity can overcome even the most advanced adversary. She turned to the alien representatives. We look forward to learning from you and to sharing our own unique perspectives. This is the beginning of a new chapter for both our peoples. The lead Khazari stepped forward. Its translation device activated as it addressed the crowd. The collective acknowledges Earth as a sovereign entity. Your rapid development is unprecedented in our records. Most species require centuries to achieve what humans accomplished in 1 decade. After the public ceremony, a private meeting took place in a secure room beneath the building. The Khazari delivered their final message directly to Earth's Security Council. We will withdraw our fleet as agreed. The alien leader stated, only diplomatic vessels will remain in your orbit. Be advised, we have informed other galactic powers of your status. Other powers? Asked the council chairwoman. There are more species like yours. The galaxy contains many advanced civilizations. Some are allies, others are competitors. All will now know of Earth. Are you saying they might come here? Secretary Wright asked. The alien's voice remained flat through the translator. Some may test your readiness themselves. Your species has accomplished what few have managed. You transformed fear into innovation rather than surrender. This makes you interesting to others besides ourselves. After the meeting, Admiral John Garcia stood with Dr. Lisa Kendrick on the roof of the building, watching the alien ships begin their departure from Earth orbit. Only 3 smaller vessels remained behind as promised. "They're spreading the word about us," Garcia said quietly, "making us a target for others." Dr. Kendrick smiled as she checked her tablet, showing the latest updates from the Global Defense Network. The screen displayed Earth's expanded defensive capabilities and the new ships already under construction. "Let them come," she replied. "Humanity's warning stands. We're ready and waiting." In schools across the world, teachers explained to children what the agreement meant. Humanity was no longer alone, and no longer unprepared. The stars had opened up to them, bringing both new dangers and new possibilities. On a hill outside the small town where he'd grown up, Frank Wilson, now an old man, looked up at the night sky. 40 years earlier, he had been the first to notice that Voyager 3 had disappeared. Now he watched as the last of the huge alien ships became tiny points of light and then vanished into the darkness. His granddaughter sat beside him. "Will we ever go out there, Grandpa?" she asked, pointing to the stars. "Someday," he told her. "The agreement says 50 years. You'll be a grown woman by then. Maybe you'll be on one of the first ships." She smiled at the thought. "I'd like that." Above them, silent and invisible, Earth's defense systems stood ready. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and survived not through force alone, but through unity, innovation, and determination. Whatever came next from the depths of space, humans would face it together.